right, enough Women's World Cup. How about some quick hits instead?
Let's go.
Tottenham Hotspur boss Ange Postecoglou had some harsh words for Bayern as the Harry Kane saga rumbles on. Nedum, so much for those deadlines, eh? Yeah, the deadline.
Yeah, listen, if you want to get something done, you'll get it done however long it takes, however long it needs to be done. I think to have a deadline that's, still a long time before the end of the transfer window, I'm not really a believer in that.
Does it matter that, unlike 2 years ago, Harry Kane's been, when the City thing was going on, Harry Kane's been totally silent here?
Do you know what? 2 years ago, he said something a little bit, but then walked it back very quickly.
Yeah, and then was late returning to training and stuff.
But then next thing, he was just back in training. He was late to training for maybe like 1 day. So I don't think the statement he made back then was hardly strong. And this is just...
I think he's piecing out. I think he's thinking, this is a win-win. Right? Either Levy gets a ton of money and Spurs get a ton of money for me and I'll make a ton of money at Bayern, or I have a great season at Spurs. I still have the option. Maybe we'll be really good and maybe I'll extend my contract and they'll pay me a ton of money, or maybe I walk away in 12 months' time as a free agent and I can pick whatever team I want to join.
Harry Kane, I think, is one of the players in the best situation all of the Premier League, arguably world football, because he doesn't need to say anything and people will defend him and say whatever he's going to do is the right decision.
Because he's generally a likable guy.
Yeah. PSG are back in training, but Kylian Mbappe is off working with the unwanted players. Gab, how is this going to end?
I think given how Paris Saint-Germain were so hard on him, there was no... last time when his contract was expiring, remember, they weren't saying anything, and in the end, he surprised everybody by signing a contract in May. Here, they're not even doing that. There were suggestions that they said, why don't you extend your contract and we'll have some sort of guaranteed sale clause in the summer, whatever that means. I think he's just sitting tight. I think it's going to end with him at Real Madrid. Real Madrid, I think they're not sweating this. If it's next summer on a free, great. If it's this summer, we'll leave a little spot open because we only have three senior forwards on our roster, Rodrigo, Vinicius, and Joselu. So there's room for you, Kylian. But either way, we're not fussed. I think they're both, Mbappe and Real Madrid, in a strong position. It's PSG who are, up the creek. Sticking with Paris Saint-Germain, Nedum, they've added Gonzalo Ramos, or close to doing, and they've triggered Dembele's release clause. A Neymar Ramos Dembele front line sounds pretty darn good to me, no?
Is that tongue in cheek, or is that like a real pretty darn good to you?
Well, okay. A Neymar Ramos Dembele front line where they're all fit and working, and Luis Enrique's working his magic. Okay, it's not Manchester City, but it's pretty darn good, yeah?
Yeah, it is.
No,
it is. No.
Listen,
I am absolutely not a hater, but say those three names compared to at the very start when you saw Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe as a front three, it does feel a bit different. But I think they can be successful as long as they're all available. As long as, compare the three. I think as long as they're all available and, you can have a manager in charge that is actually in charge, then yeah, I think they can do a good job. Back to Dembele, Gab. He only extended his contract with Barcelona last summer. How big a blow is this for Xavi?
I think it's a blow that he saw happening. Xavi's not stupid. And so he was a free agent. Obviously, when you extend your contract and take a pay cut, which you effectively did, and you only signed for 2 years, which you did, it's obvious something's afoot. You're going to put a favorable clause, and that's what he did. So I think Xavi's prepared for it. I think Xavi knew something like this was likely to happen, and I think they're okay. Rasmus Hojlund is officially a Manchester United player. Nedum, 75 million, rising to 85 million euros from Atalanta. Sounds like a ton of money for a guy who's 20 years old and scored all of 9 league goals last season.
Yeah, I don't think 9 goals this season is going to do it for Man United from a sort of excitement perspective. I think given the conversation they've had about new ownership groups and how well they did in winning something last year, I don't think you can afford to bring in a player that's part of a project, in my opinion. I think he has to hit the ground running. Everyone sees Man United. He has to do well.
I don't know. I think it's more important that you get this right for his long-term development. You want to learn lessons from what happened with Anthony Martial, who also came over very young and learned a lesson. I'd have no problem with them bringing in another striker, maybe even somebody on loan to take some of the pressure off him up front, so he can grow.
It sounds like you're talking about Wout Weghorst.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.